Welcome to the Wooper Club League Season 18, Week 5 Power Rankings. We've already got multiple teams clinching playoff spots. We'll tell you how and why in just a little bit. I am your host, IllLogic. I am the coach of the Buffalo Bouffalant, and as always, I am joined by my co-host, SteveChuck, coach of the Waterdeep Wobbuffets.
Hey, everybody.
We don't have any transactions this week, thank goodness, after the cavalcade of moves that we had last time. So let's get right into the action here. We're going to start off the Week 5 the way that Week 4 ended. It's going to be Sasbo's Boldores facing off against a team that has been revamped, and this time it's the Wooper Boopers. However, the 1-3 Boldores with a 6-0 win over last team's champion Boopers. Glow King lands Toxic into Sableye, who gets up screens, out to SteveChuck, sets up spikes. That lets an Iron Leaf set up a Sword Stance with the booster speed boost. That could be big. Or maybe that Sword Stance will just be matched by the Mirror Herb Ogerpon. Oh my goodness, Iron Leaf's Terra's fighting. Ogerpon tears grass to match the speed boost, then Headbutt will be a 2-hit KO. The return Sacred Sword. Ogerpon hangs on and KOs the boost to Iron Leaf's Disaster avoided. SteveChuck eats the Sneasler U-turn as that thing keeps getting chipped. Up go Rocks as well. While Sableye gets up another round of screens, but between Ogerpon, Spiky Shield, Bundles protect, good switching. Sasbo's doing a good job stalling out screens. Enamours in to set up a Calm Mind, but Glow King nails it with a Toxic and puts it on a clock. It lives the +1 Earth Power 2 and clicks the disable button to stop any more of that. Oh my goodness. Agility is neat tech too, but screens are down and Cinderace can get the easy revenge KO. Sableye sacked all the hazards. Vaporeon down to the future site. It'll be up to Rotom Heat with the wish to get it done, but as it tricks the Scarf into SteveChuck, it gets hits with a Power Gem for half. Another one KOs. One more KOs. The chipped Sneasler. The Boulders finally show up this season. Give us quite a show. Next up, it's the most anticipated matchup of the week. It's the Aggrons hosting the Cincinnati Incineroar, and the Aggrons are going to be sending them packing with a clean 5-0 win to bounce back. Dragapult D-dances up, but Gliscor really does not care. Tanks D-darts doing massive damage to Dragapult between Protect and Poison Heal. Gliscor still above half when the Ghost goes down. Tauros tanks a Grunt hit, Doxbun takes a Tauros hit, Gliscor tanks a Doxbun hit, and now T-Spikes go up, matched by Fortress's Stealth Rock. T-Spikes spun away as Grunt comes, and again, nice swap to King Gambit on Karagno, but Gliscor tanks the Gambit too. T-Spikes back up, Doxbun chunked by Skeledirge, who sits in front of Gambit 2 to click Willow, lands into Glando instead. Cryo into Earth Power and spin away Rocks. Now as Fortress tries to spin, Skeledirge eats it and nails Lando with a big hit. Cryo eats the Earth Power again, then a nice double to Dirge on the Gambit. Lots of switching as Bud seems try to get positioning, but when Dirge comes back in on Stealth Rocks being set up, a sack needs to be picked. Down goes Lando. Tauros tanks the Surf and KOs Grin. Finally, the offensive tools are getting low, especially as Doxbun's Wish does not go off thanks to a clutch Freeze Dry. Roaring in on King Gambit. Terra Fairy, Terra Blast does dispatch the Ancient Beast, but with a Willow into the Gambit from Skeledirge, it's so over. Dirge gets the last 2 KOs cleanly. The Aggrons win again. And to nobody's surprise, the Noctiles keep rolling this week. It's a 6-0 over the Kinglers. Tropicos does half to Rillaboom, nails Torkoal with an attack, and KOs it with Rapid Spin to remove Rocks too. Yeesh. Iron Valiant trying to revenge, but Swallow can tank, sets up T-Spikes to boot. Look at that team versus T-Spikes. Chiyu poisoned and damaged by Sledge, out to Heatran to proc Flashfire. Heatran gets a Brox, out to Clefable as the Kinglers go for game with sub Calm Mind Latias, but Clefable with the good encore to lock it into Calm Mind and breaks the sub 2. Maybe try that again later as it switches out. Rillaboom finally goes down to Heatran, Swallow back in on Terra, Steel Valiant, eats that hit easily, body pressed out to get the KO on Chiyu. Okay, you go Swallow that. Tropicos tanks a couple Hydro Steams, goes down to Walking Wake, it stays in to Dark Pulse to Latias, forced to recover. Clef encores it into a weak stored power and Moonblast away. T-Wave the turn encore ends to force it to keep going. It's all going wrong. Masquerade and just finished the game. A couple knockoffs KO the last 2 months. The Noctiles are 5-0. Speaking of teams on a roll, my Bouffalant win for the 4th time in a row this week against the Pups. D-Knight swaps out for D-Knight, who tanks a U-turn. Ogerpon takes a knockoff from Incineroar and then KOs with Ivy Cudgel. Easy. Scizor into tank a Latios and is the second one to U-turn on D-Knight. Out to Porygon, who T-Waves Weavile and recovers up, though it did lose its Eviolite. Scizor chunks Swampert with U-turn, then Ogerpon U-turns D-Knight a 3rd time, but no more messing around. Screamtail is in. Bulk up, then 2 player offs take care of Swampert. Oh boy. Zoroark, and it's setting up in front of Porygon. Foul play. Zoroark lives on 2, and Hyper Voice does take care of the duck, but then Zoro does go down to the Bullet Punch. D-Knight in, Roost, a 4th U-turn on it, but this is the end game. In comes Revel Room, Terra Fairy, Shift Gear, Tank a hit, and 3 Terra Blasts take care of the last 3 mons, all week to Fairy. The Bouffalant with another win. Next match, the Implants and the Corviknight have been near the bottom of the PR this whole season, and a win would do a lot for either of them here. Well, it's the new look Corviknight who are going to take this one handily. Excadrill chunks Hydreigon, then sets up Rocks and goes down to Terrifier Hydreigon, but the hazards are up. Corv tanks a Urshifu hit and heals up. Slow U-turn out on Goldingo to let in Hearthflame, but Gouging Fire is a nice option, especially brings Corv down to 8% with a booster Heat Crash, and then instead of taking the KO out to Articuno as Corv roosts up twice to get back up to full. U-turn out of the tail-winning Articuno, but Prankster Grimstar will let the Calgary set up the screens anyways. Out to Keldeo on another tailwind, and it's a set up Calm Mind Keldeo. Terra Water as Articuno goes down to Lorb and another Calm Mind. Oh boy, even Scarf Urshifu can't do it with a Reflect Up and down it goes. Dancy down to Surf, Gouging Fire as well, Goldingo too, and you already know the Terrifier Hydreigon. Oh, it's faster. Draco does not KO, down it goes. Big sweep from Keldeo and the Corviknight. And finally, there's nothing in this world Steve loves more than doing power rankings with me, but maybe defeating Chad's Seattle Steamrollers could be a close second. Mousehole chunked by Volt Switch, has to swap to Salamence to D-Dance up instead, but Brain Marina tanks a hit, KO's back with Moonblast. Slitherwing tanks a Jirachi and gets off a Willow into the Annihilate. That could be big. Raikou chunks the Urshifu too, brought dangerously low, then out to Mousehole against Slitherwing against the Helmet Mon. Yes, Pop Bomb not progging Helmet. Natty hitting 6 times easily. Careful for lots of text here. Garchomp goes Terra Steel. Pop Bomb hits all 10 times, doing almost half before finally going down. Urshifu down to Rough Skin 2, Jirachi down to EQ2 in exchange for rocks before Chomp finally goes down to Boom Burst. Meloetta takes out Annihilate, Toxtricity KOs that, but goes down to Raikou at the end of the Wobbuffets with another big win. And that's what happened in week 5. Not that much movement at the top here of the power rankings. It's the Noctoles, it's the Wobbuffets, it's the Bouffalant, the Aggrons. Calgary Corviknight moving all the way up to 5, Incineroar at 6. Well, hello, welcome to the season. Boldores at 7, and the Woopers falling all the way down to 8 with the Empoleons no longer on the list. Where else do we ever start, aside from the Noctoles? 5-0, looking dominant as always, with a tough schedule. Only got tougher with the Kinglers, but they were able to take care of business.
Yeah, I was looking for a little more against the Kinglers, kind of hoping for the 7-0 or 8-0, but I guess for a 6-0, we'll keep them at 1. But, maybe they'll do better next week, and we'll be able to talk more about them.
I guess so. I sure hope they don't, actually. But anyways, we're going to look at the next grouping here. It's going to be 2, 3, and 4. Wobbuffets, Bouffalant, Aggrons are all 4-1. And Steve, it's so difficult, I think, to separate all 3 of these teams. 1 loss each of them, pretty tough loss each of them too. Pretty decent wins as well. I think it was big that the Aggrons beat the Incineroar to make sure that they are grouped up with the other 2 teams. But for now, really not that much of a reason, I think, to separate them out quite yet.
Yep, this is the order we had last week, as mentioned. The Calgary's getting, the Aggrons getting a win against the Incineroar this week. Certainly helps their stock out after some of their previous big wins weren't looking as impressive as the season went on. So all of us being 4-1, very tight, neck and neck race right now. We'll have to see, what the next couple of weeks again bring and if they can shake it up. But for now, we're all here together.
I guess so. We will take 1 or 2 potentially marquee matchups to see what will happen to shake this out a little bit more. But for now, we're going to be sticking together as the 4-1 gang. Next up, Calgary Corviknight, I think separating themselves a little bit as the 5 team. They revamped their squad a little bit, a couple pretty decent wins here in the last couple weeks. If there's any team to maybe challenge the top 4, sign me up for Calgary.
Yeah, Calgary, coming into week 4 with their revamped team, getting a fairly good win over the Boldores, taking another dominant win this week over the Empoleons. A couple big weeks in a row. We'll have to see if they're able to sustain that and keep the momentum moving. And if so, they'll certainly be climbing higher. But as of now, they seem to be on a roll, doing really well since their trades. It seems to be working for them and their team. So we'll see if they're able to keep it up.
Speaking of momentum, though, the Incineroar down to 6 there. They had 3 wins in a row coming into this week and got absolutely dumpstered on. It sure seemed like they were unprepared for the Aggrons, who just had the answer to everything. What a strange season it's been for the Incineroar so far, Steve. They got dumpstered by 2 teams ahead of them. A couple of really nice wins against teams below them, as well as the pre-transaction Corviknight. I guess that evens out for them to be right about in the middle at 6.
Yeah, part of this just comes down to the record, of course, being 3-2. Seemed like an intuitive spot to put them, given they're here at the bottom 3-2 team. But yeah, big loss to the Noctowers early, big wins. A lot of those wins we didn't put a lot of stock into at first. The Calgary wins looking better and better. Of course, that was the pre-trade Calgary team, so a little bit different there. But this week, taking the loss to the Aggrons, finally for sure being differentiated from those other 4-1 teams. We had been making that difference ourselves here for a while, but the record now reflects it too. But yeah, now they're here, 3-2, hanging out at number 6, and of course, if the rest of the season goes their way, they could certainly climb back up. But we'll have to see what the future matchups look like for them.
Speaking of climbing, hello, Boldores at number 7 and Wooper Boopers down to 8. Because that was a 6-0 for the Boldores, who've had a very strange season. Steve, this is a team that either shows up or that does not. It's very strange. They had a great game against the Noctoles in which they lost, but they also had a tough loss earlier against the Empoleons, who are no longer on the list. What are the Boldores even?
They are the hottest and coldest team in the league for sure. Having a very hot week this week, 6-0 against the Boopers. Certainly enough to give us the momentum to put them on here. And then, creating some confusion and basically beyond the top 4 teams, teams that are now beating other people or not, getting into a circular path here of rock, paper, scissors, who beat who. But they've started that now with this big win. It looks real impressive this week, and they're carrying that momentum to the number 7 spot right now. Of course, they have a difficult schedule up ahead, going through the Chuck Gauntlet. So we'll see if they're able to keep that up and continue to climb, or if some tough matchups will slide them slowly back down.
Well, sometimes Boulder show up big against some big good teams, so I don't know if there's a chance for it. Here it is. But the Boopers are a team that have not really lived up to the expectations here, especially the past couple weeks here. Big expectations after winning last season and then making a couple of moves, which we expected to potentially smooth out their team. But Steve, maybe the Boulder showed us that was maybe a little too predictable, and it's still relatively easy to maneuver around their team.
Quite potentially. Stay tuned for next week, as there are more trades coming into effect for the Boopers that can perhaps help them further. But as of now, they have that win over Calgary early on against the pre-transaction team. They'll certainly help, and they'll need to get some big wins moving forward to continue to stay here and/or climb. Notably, they have some tough matchups coming up against the Incineroar and Noctowls later in the season. Some very important matchups for them to do well in, to kind of climb up and stabilize.
But still a pretty decent chance for those teams, even at the bottom there, to make playoffs. And we'll talk about that right now as we look at the standings. I mentioned last time that the Noctowls had an easy shot to clinch. With one more win, they would easily get there, and they of course have clinched at 5-0. But Steve, we actually have a few more clinchers here. The 4-1 teams have also clinched a playoff spot. As a reminder to everyone out there, the playoff teams are the top 8, as well as anyone who has an equal record to the number 8 seed. And so through a bit of a technicality there, that is why the 4-1 teams cannot possibly miss out on playoffs anymore.
Yep. So that is fantastic news for all of us. On these top 4 teams all securing their place. Otherwise, in terms of the standings, we're at once again our symmetric spread again, staying there. So that's fantastic to continue to see. Looking ahead towards playoffs, I had done some looking into the possible number of wins needed. I know that was a key point we discussed earlier. The 2 wins making it to playoffs is seeming quite unlikely at this point. Of all the possible outcomes of the remaining 3 weeks of matches, it's only about 0.5% of them that end up actually making 2 wins. So it is quite unlikely. 3 wins is certainly what you want to go for, and some extreme cases it can get up to 5 wins being needed. That, of course, being the top 8 teams would get up there, getting to at least 5 wins, and certainly the remaining teams can't get to that. But some interesting things that could happen. Expect 3 wins, 4 wins should be pretty safe, but we'll have to see what the rest of the season brings.
Love the symmetry with even the +0s at the 6 and 7 there. We'd love to see that, even the differential lining up for us. That's going to do it for week 5. We, of course, have to look ahead to week 6, and there are quite a few excellent games to look forward to here. What catches your eye most, Steve?
Yeah, there are a ton of good games here. I'll start by highlighting the Empoleons versus the Steamrollers. 2 teams not on the power rankings, both of them with 1 win. This is a very important match for both of these teams, as that getting that extra win could put them into a position to play for that playoff spot at the end of the season. For the team that loses, it is looking very dire. Outside of that, I'll go ahead and highlight that top match there. Buffalo, Bouffalant, Newport, Noctowls. A very big match. A real chance for someone else to stop this Noctowl sweep that no one else has been able to do so far this season, as well as give the Bouffalant another game at least, if not a win, against one of these other top teams that might be enough to shake up the 4-1 rankings we have currently.
Absolutely a chance to either jump ahead or fall behind. And honestly, my schedule the rest of the season, not that easy either. Calgary and Cincinnati to finish up, so that could be tough. Speaking of, hey, why not highlight the Wobbuffets and Corviknight here too? Calgary looking pretty good after their trades and transactions. Wobbuffets, hey, maybe sitting a little comfy with their recent wins after clinching the playoffs as well. I wonder if it's a chance for Greg's Corviknight to make something happen there. And hey, I'll go ahead and shout out the Aggrons and Boldores here as well. Boldores, again, trying to force their way into the conversation here. Aggrons trying to keep things up, trying to avoid another second half and or playoff collapse. So that could be huge for them too. And hey, while we're at it, I'll go ahead and talk about Boopers and Incineroar a little bit here too. 2 teams that I think we had equal just a couple weeks ago and have both slid down just a little bit here too. One of these teams may be falling even further. The other one potentially trying to save their season with a big win against another pretty good opponent here. So really jam-packed week 6 we've got going on here. We're going to have to see you next time for the power rankings. We talk about what happened there, more trades and transactions, and the playoff picture afoot as well. We'll see you then.